Hello beautiful beings. My name is Nick and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is about the ego trap and how society promotes it. So let's dive into it. The ego. Such a fascinating subject. As a bit further explained in one of my older videos called What is Vibration? Spirituality 101. Link in the description below. We are basically part ego and part divine. The ego is the mask we wear, the persona, the name you were giving at birth, the avatar that you embody in this very realistic and beautiful simulation called life. The divine part is our true nature, our soul, our spirit, our higher self. Basically the part of us that lives on forever. On the other hand, our egos are finite, contrary to our spirit, which is basically absolutely boundless. The body, linked to the ego, is a very fragile shell that we tend to associate a lot with, even too much sometimes. The problem with associating with ego too much is that it leads to suffering, because it makes us take things personally a lot more in life. Basically, because we truly believe we are that shell, we gotta start to think outside of this concept, or outside the box, because it creates too much misery. Because people think they are that person way too much, sometimes it inflates their ego. They sometimes think that they are superior to other people. I think we've all met people like that in our lives. On the other hand, you'll have some people that will think that they're absolutely worthless and basically let people walk all over them and basically bathe in their own misery, which basically only attract that same type of feeling, because you are a magnet. You attract what you output, what you generate. We're magnets of energy. It's okay to be sad sometimes, but it's another to just stay in that victim mentality mindset and just decide to stay there. You don't want to stay there. And basically feeling bad for yourself all of the time is basically rooted in the ego as well, contrary to what most people would think. In this case, it's not an inflated ego, but a deflated ego. But it still remains that it's a focus on the ego, because it focuses on the me. Oh, look at poor me. Please have pity on me. You do not want to attract that kind of energy more. Listen, my friend, that's not healthy long term and only takes you further away from your own power. Please, never stay stuck in that trap. I mean, you still need the ego a little bit in life for people not to walk all over you, to have confidence, to have motivation, to push yourself towards your own goals and your own dreams, to have the will to survive. It's there for a reason, but don't overdo it, because that's when problem arises and basically sneak up on you. And society doesn't help either, because it promotes it all of the time. People will judge others based on their life choices, their class, their jobs, and sometimes they will judge them even further depending on how stuck in ego they are. Some other people will judge others based on their skin color, their jobs, their family members, the people they hang out with, if they have addiction issues, what sexual orientation they hold, what political party they support, how old they are, what health choices they decide to make. Sometimes we have presumptions on other people's personas because basically we tend to sometimes compare them with us. Actually, most people always compare them with us because that's their only reference point, because they associate with the ego. Sometimes we compare ourselves with them and are wondering, why aren't they thinking like us? Why would they do this or that? But we don't understand their life. We don't know what they actually went through and shouldn't judge them based off of that. If we grew up in their shoes, same genetics, same family, same upbringing, there's a very high likelihood that would probably just end up exactly like them, with all the same circumstances. Our judging is not 100% our fault. It comes from past experiences, how we grew up, and basically, our belief systems. We always shape it in a better way as we grow and mature throughout our life. Our society, especially in Western culture, is profoundly sick. It promotes the ego at all cost, and they like us to worship things, always externalizing our power. And they basically like to make us focus on only ourselves. They promote illnesses like narcissism, which is pretty rampant in Western culture. Social media does it extremely well. It's designed for that. Society, the media, and those that control us basically takes advantage of these biases, these unconscious biases that we already have inside of us, and they basically like to reinforce them. And then basically it tricks us into even further division. I'm saying it and I keep saying it over and over. They like to divide us because when we're divided, we lose our power and we're easier to control. And the more divided we are, the more easily manipulated we can be by things like big corporations. And because of exactly that, the silent majority and all that power is scattered everywhere and isn't united. Returning back to our ego and our own personal judgment sometimes of other people. We are all guilty of thoughts linked to ego sometimes. We just gotta take a step back and improve ourselves for the next time. Don't let the world suck your energy dry. You have the power of the universe, the power of God, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. It's inside your soul. So try not to get entrapped to those ego delusions or ego inflation. The ego can be very useful as well, like I said. So you gotta find that right balance, right? So just try not to get lost in those lower vibrations. You can get controlled by the ego if you're way too much out of touch with it, and it basically takes over. And when it's way too much inflated, you lose touch with those higher vibrations, that part of yourself. You lose touch with, that divine part of yourself, because that ego is inflated and the divine is shrinking. So the more you connect with the ego, the less connected you feel with your surroundings, because you practice more separation and you're basically stuck in the me mindset, like I said earlier. And you don't want to do that, because once you do that, then you alienate all the other parts of yourself, which is the world. And we're all guilty of judging other people sometimes. Don't deny it. So I'm basically going to share with you an example which happened to me in the past. So basically there's this other spiritual YouTuber on YouTube, which I'm not gonna name, but basically this one, he has like over 5 figures in number of subscribers. It's all I'm gonna keep it at. And I wasn't subscribed to his channel yet. I used to see his videos recommended in my video feed, in the YouTube recommended videos. The titles were basically the same as some other previous videos I've seen from Infinite Waters, another spiritual YouTuber that you may know. videos like Chosen Ones, about star seeds, about many different subjects. So basically I never clicked on his suggested videos, but they kept popping back in my feed. And I didn't even watch any of his videos. And I was already judging. And I was thinking things like, who does this guy think he is? Talking about those kind of subjects. And I was thinking in my head like, oh, does he think he's like better than Ralph Smart or something? Or what? He thinks he's all knowledgeable and stuff. So you could see, basically, I was clearly stuck in ego back then. Basically comparing him to others and basically comparing me to him as well. Basically inflating my own ego, my own even spiritual ego. But who was I to judge him either, right? I was making assumptions like, oh, he's just repeating verbatim exactly what, Ralph would say on some of his videos. And I was thinking, oh, he's just basically a copycat. And guess what? After a little while, I decided to click on one of his videos and actually start watching. And the more videos I started watching from him, I realized how wrong I was. And basically that I should never, never judge a book by its cover. Big lesson that day. Huge lesson I learned that day. And I felt bad about myself for thinking all those thoughts in retrospect. I'm sharing this with you because I try to stay humble. A lot of people won't have the courage to be real like this with you and admit their own faults, especially when they judge other people. They don't want other people to look at them differently. They like to keep that fake image of them projected into the world. And I can understand that in some way, but it's not fully genuine. They are not fully genuine because they cling to the ego, and the ego is tied to manipulation. Like in this example, we just gotta take a step back and be real with ourselves and the others. When the ego starts to dissolve, you become a bit more humble and a bit more genuine. When these boundaries you set for yourself starts to disappear, that's when the true magic starts to happen. So in the previous example I just explained to you guys, I went from judging that person to becoming a fan. See how there was like a big drastic change? This basically shows you how powerful lowering these walls can actually be. When we realize that we are not the ego, we are just experiencing this life as an observer with free will. We are just pure awareness, having this temporary human experience, but sometimes gets fooled into thinking that we are actually that shell that we embody. So watch out for the ego trap. Embrace the connectedness. Lower those boundaries. You're not in competition with anybody. Because once you're in competition with all the others, you're basically only competing against yourself. It's useless, but you can still protect your own boundary and your own energy in the process. Have healthy boundaries. Have a wonderful day, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. And sending lots of love, lots of peace to all of you. And life is beautiful. Don't get stuck in ego. Don't get stuck in the ego trap. Because you're only draining your own energy if you do that. So take care. I love you. From my soul to yours. Namaste.